There's an obvious end to this game we're playing. I say nothing, you say nothing, and nobody wins. I've been through this a million times, hoping that my heart would give me a sign. Feels like we're both keeping secrets tonight.
My name is Caroline. So I signed up for my first marathon and ran a 3:05 and very unexpectedly won it. And then I hired a coach and I ran a 2:46 marathon. And I've just been through a lot when it comes to running. I used to hate running and now I'm aiming for the Olympics. And I've started this channel because I want to share all of my learnings with all of you guys. So I have created 3 different marathon training plans depending on your level. So I'd say the difference between other plans I've seen and my plans is that it's a very clear who is this for section. That's one. And then my whole training philosophy is on heart rate and on time on feet. So if that's something you're interested, check out the training plans. I also do one-on-one coaching, so there will be a link below. And yeah, please subscribe to the channel and let me know what you want to learn more about. So in this video, I'm just going to take you through my supplement routine, and I'm going to bring on my registered sports dietitian, Katie, and also the founder of TRUWILD, Zac. Okay, so every morning I start the day off with electrolytes, and I use this one, Hydrate, from TRUWILD. And I'm here with Zac, the founder of TRUWILD. So maybe you could explain why Hydrate is such great, especially in the morning before exercise.
Great. So Hydrate is great for just everyday use, but mostly in the morning, just because when you're sleeping, people don't know this, you actually sweat a lot. And so when you sweat, you're actually losing your electrolytes. And so to start the day with a full set of electrolytes, you can drink Hydrate. I mean, there's a lot of other ways. So like you can drink salt with lemon, you can drink a lot of other products. But I think what makes us unique and different is we don't have sugar. So that's one. 2, we have amino acids in here, BCAAs, which really helps. And 3, I would just say ours tastes far more superior than a lot of others. And then the affordability and price. So.
Yeah, so Katie, I'm curious because I had never heard of BCAAs, or especially in the endurance world. I'd heard like people who were strength training talk a lot about the hype of like BCAAs, but what benefits are there to BCAAs for an endurance athlete and a runner?
Great question. So for any athlete, anyone who is using their muscle for effort, our muscles are composed of these amino acids. So the BCAA standing for the branched chain amino acids. They're the specific 3 types of amino acids that are the most responsible, maybe play the biggest role in protein synthesis. So if you want to cover your bases, yes, can we get these branched chain amino acids from food? Of course. But again, with any supplement, we're saying we're covering this base, knowing that I'm taking it outside of food to make sure my body has the ability to use it. So for an endurance athlete or even a strength training athlete who is straining that muscle tissue to rebuild and repair, the branched chain amino acids are going to play the biggest role in helping that repair process.
Nice. So yeah, because before I took LMNT electrolytes, but really how I got introduced to TRUWILD but was because of these BCAAs, and also like I totally agree, the taste is really, really good. And then I also take omega-3, so I use Thorn. I take 2 of these capsules, and all my supplements I've worked with Katie, who's a registered sports dietitian at Dexa Body, and we're really making sure that all of my supplements are helping me get like everything that I need in addition to the whole foods. So do you want to explain like...
Yeah, let's talk about the complex. So omega-3s are probably one of the more common supplements someone might buy and take. For the reason of, we hear that omega-3 fatty acids are going to help us fight inflammation, right? Help our body recover and get back and get ready for an athlete for that next effort. The reason why it's so popular is we're learning, at least in our population here in the United States, a lot of people are not having an appropriate omega-3 index. We would only know that through a blood test. However, one thing about omega-3s and why it's so popular and common on the market is there's very little risk to taking it. There's not a lot of harmful effects. It's one of the safer supplements where you're not going to reach any sort of toxic level. Your body can utilize most of it. And I'll introduce a term that we'll probably talk about a lot today, that's cross-reactivity. If something's cross-reactive, it's going to interfere with your ability to perform or recover or maybe interact with another supplement to kind of negate positive effects. So when a supplement has very low cross-reactivity, it means overall it's pretty safe to take. And so that's why you'll see omega-3 be very popular. There are a lot of varieties of it, and so we want to talk very specifically about what dose and what types of fatty acids are included in your supplement. But that's part of what Caroline and do, is work together to find the right dose, who's governing this supplement, making sure that it's certified by people who are looking at these labels and making sure that what they're saying is contained in it is. And I think the Thorne dose for what Caroline's looking for recovery-wise is appropriate. So that's why we introduced this to her list of dailies.
Nice. Yeah. And one of the other things we talked about is how I can switch my dose depending on like how much omega-3 is in the food I eat. So on days where I have salmon, I'll have like we've calculated how much I then get through that salmon, and then I'll reduce the amount. And this is just for some of you who might be on a budget like I am. It's just, these supplements are definitely pricey, so that can be like a very good way to just make sure you're not like taking in supplements that you don't need in excess. And then another product that we started introducing, I want to say like 6 months ago, Katie?
December time, yeah.
Yeah, that is nitric beets. So again, I love TRUWILD. That's why I have brought Zac on here. So I don't know, do you want to maybe start with the benefits?
First, I want to shout out your product. Caroline, you want to tell them why you switched to this specific one versus what we had you start with?
Yeah. So I always like to try a bunch of different brands and variations of the supplements just to like really make sure that what I'm using is what I prefer the most. So I started off with that powder, and it was beets. Like, I'm sure it did all the great things, but I just really didn't like the taste, to be honest. So I just would much rather prefer taking it in a pill format. So yeah, that's why I love this one.
And this is a TRUWILD product. Yeah. So when I was first starting in the sports RD space, it was only powders, and it's not a good flavor. It's not very easy to mask. So they were combining it with cherry or things that were dominating, but beets are a very dominating flavor. You guys have probably tried the powders. The reason why an athlete would want to introduce this to their routine, again, it's not very cross-reactive. So there's no negative effect to taking this supplement. It's not going to counteract any other supplement that you would be taking. But we have to think of what the supplement contains. Why is this going to benefit me in my effort? Nitric oxide is high in beets. And so, yes, you could eat beets and you would get some nitric oxide in the body. But would it be enough? Would it be at the potency that would make an impact? Not necessarily. And so that's when supplements come into play, right? Yes, we can get some of these nutrients from food, but if we can increase the dose in something like a pill or a powder, we want to get nitric oxide levels in the blood to an extent where that nitric oxide is at a level that can introduce oxygen more readily to the muscles, right? So if we can get more of it in and our body can utilize that nitric oxide, well, now we've enhanced the way that oxygen can get to the muscle. That would be the benefit of using this supplement, is to say, after some time, you want to take this supplement for at least 6 days to see any sort of effect in an endurance effort, up to 60 days. So that nitric oxide starts building its ability to deliver oxygen to the muscles more efficiently from day 6 all the way up to day 60. So you want to take it routinely. If you're not going to be able to, there's no benefit that you'll see. But once Caroline started taking it, which now it's been about 6 months, her ability for the oxygen to be delivered to her muscles with enough of this in her system is going to be enhanced. And she might experience that in prolonged efforts. The ability to go for longer because of that oxygen delivery would be a benefit of beetroot powder.
And obviously being a marathon runner, that's a very good thing to be able to go for longer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, it's very hard. Like, people are always asking me, oh, do you see like the benefit of X, Y, Z? And I'm doing so many things, right? Because I'm trying to be like, I want to go to the Olympics. So I want to be the absolute best athlete that I can be. So it's hard to say like what specific thing, right? But the sum of everything that I'm doing is absolutely like, I can see a huge benefit of it. But then I wanted to ask you, because this doesn't just have beets, right?
Yeah. So it has more than just beets, but what specifically, and something interesting I read a study about recently too, is that beets overall, they took like did a placebo study between two different people. That beets actually improves your, I think your running and VO2 max by 5%. So I thought that was an interesting tidbit to add as well. So they gave beets to one participant, and then they gave like cranberry juice to the same participant. And I think they did a 5K race, and the last mile of that race, their miles per hour were 5% better than the one who did cranberry juice. So, I don't know, that was interesting.
Wow.
Tidbit to add. But yeah, so, I mean, other than beets is L-citrulline, L-arginine, pomegranate, spinach, and cacao, and black pepper. So, I'll start with black pepper. The importance of black pepper is absorption, right? So you have biospherine, which is another trademark ingredient that people use in supplements. And the biggest thing there is that you want to absorb all your supplements. You don't want it to go through your body and just pee it out. So you want something to like hold on to. So black pepper is one of those agents that actually helps with bioabsorption. And then, I mean, you can talk more about the other things, but like L-citrulline, arginine, the importance of that. But pomegranate, spinach, and cacao, those are just other daily nitrates. So we're adding beets, which is the nitrate, and then we're adding other whole food ingredients as nitrates to supercharge your system.
Nice. And then when do I take this supplement?
So the maximum effect, your best bet would be within 90 minutes to 3 hours before exercise.
Okay.
You got this window to work with.
Yeah.
We should see the nitric oxide be delivered to the blood system and begin its effect at about that 3 hour mark.
Yeah, perfect. So I've been taking, the nitric beets and the omega with my breakfast. I'll have like a pretty like large breakfast, and then I'll wait like, I hope, 2 hours. But then sounds like I've been doing that correctly. And then I've also taken iron together with vitamin C. And this is actually something that's specific to me, because I work with Inside Tracker, and I've gotten like blood work done, and I was low in iron. So that's something we've added.
Yeah, and to add on top of that, a lot of supplements, there are some that are more common, less common. Iron would be one that we absolutely would want a blood value to say, let's introduce this. Too much iron in the body does have some cross-reactivity, and so Caroline did the best thing by accessing a blood panel, making sure that that was something her body was low in and needed to bring up to a normal level. And that's the only time a dietitian hopefully would say, let's introduce iron. Vitamin C, just like Zac mentioned with the black pepper, vitamin C is going to help the absorption of that. So that pairing is a good one.
Nice. And then do I take the iron supplement with food?
Could be best. Absolutely, yeah. Vitamin C is water soluble, so it's not as though that food is going to necessarily help any additional absorption, but for all intents and purposes, if we're going to be habitual about things, I think with supplements, right, it's how many am I taking per day? Am I really going to stay consistent with it? So if you're going to be simple, right, there are very few supplements that we would want to take without food. Timing of day is important, so you can take as many together with a meal as possible. Best idea. Absolutely.
And then another thing that I've actually started doing recently, I want to say a month ago, is we switched, Oscar, my boyfriend and I, we switched our coffee from regular coffee to decaf. And as someone who does utilize caffeine quite a bit in training, like we'll talk more about the gels that I take later, but I take gels that have caffeine. I even will sometimes take caffeine pills. I do this very seldomly though, because they have a lot of caffeine, but I'll take them in races to really like maximize my performance. So switching to like the decaf, then, or the thought, and interrupt me if this is wrong, but the thought is that when I take caffeine, I'll get even more like response from that caffeine, because I've now, my body's not used to that caffeine, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we can get as nerdy as we want on caffeine. We all love it for the most part, right? But when we're drinking coffee, right, the caffeine's in our system, it's going into our adenosine receptors, and it's kind of just sitting there, and it's blocking those other, we'll call them tired molecules from getting into that receptor. So it blocks that feeling of us getting tired. Now, if we sip coffee all day and then we take a caffeine pill, well, we already have caffeine in the system. We've probably already blocked off some of those adenosine receptors, and so we might not get such a kick of an effect that you might feel from a caffeine pill. Yeah. So the idea behind, do I want caffeine to work for me ergogenically in exercise? Well, then if we can avoid it all day and then all of a sudden I take an appropriate dose, all of a sudden caffeine's going to go to those adenosine receptors, sit in there, block it, and really give you that enhanced feeling when like, no, I'm not tired, I can continue to go. Yeah. Versus drinking coffee all day, we probably won't feel that instant effect.
Yeah, but I do love coffee, so like I definitely need the decaf. But yeah, that brings me to the next product that actually has caffeine, which is Motion. And yeah, you can talk more about Motion, but it's a pre-workout, right?
Yeah, so it's a low stem, I would say, pre-workout. There's a lot of other pre-workouts on the market. Let's say ours is unique in that we not only have natural caffeine in it, but we throw a lot of other ingredients in it as well. So we throw 1,000 milligrams of coconut water in there. So it's, I would say, rapid frozen coconut water. They turn into powder, put in there as well. And then we also have like 5 other trademarks that's unique. So it doesn't only hydrate you and energize you, but we also use adaptogens, so those functional mushrooms that helps with like VO2 max, mental clarity, and energy as well. And then we also use platanos, which is a sugar carb made from, I am just spacing on what the carb is sourced. It's beet sugar, so it doesn't spike your glycemic index. So it's a good thing for anyone who's doing marathon or training. You don't want to have a massive blood increase as well. We use bioabsorption through black pepper as well. Coconut water is another trademark, and then I would say natural caffeine. So we use through natural sources. So we use coffee bean, yerba mate, and coffee bean. And so there's all kind of like a natural, sustainable high versus like other pre-workouts have like 250 to 300 milligrams of like fake caffeine, they like to say, which like gives you this awesome spike. You feel great, and then you crash, or you get the jitters, or there's like they use L-arginine in there as well. That gives you like, you don't want that when you're running, because it just gives you like kind of that like muscle intensity of like your veins popping. So you don't really want that while you're, sorry, it's beta-alanine, not arginine. That gives you that kind of that pump feel, but you really don't need that. So we made this as like an energy hydration source. So it's not mostly for all indoors, mostly for both, but mostly for like anyone who wants to tackle the outdoors, because it gives you not like a 1 hour of energy, but like up to 3 hours of energy through any activity that you want as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when do you take this? That's the first question. And the second is, should I take this in addition to the hydrate? Or is it like, okay, if I want that caffeine, say I have a threshold workout, right? Do I then take Motion instead of hydrate, or both?
So I really think when it comes to hydrate, depends on your electrolyte levels and feeling how hydrated you do feel. I mean, that's not really a test for that yet. I hope someone comes out with one. But I would say for this, I would take this for any like high endurance training that you have. And I would take it 30 to 45 to 60 minutes before your workout of choice. You could combine it. So there are people who combine hydrate with Motion, and so you can supplement stack if you want to. You're just gonna get a lot more electrolytes in your system than you need. And I don't know what the effect of aminos or BCAAs on running, so I'm not like an expert on that. I know it does help reduce soreness, so I don't know if that would interfere with kind of the running assortment as well. So my answer would be take them both, or take them individually if you want the full focal approach.
I feel like, but again, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like for someone like me who is training, like I have double runs per day, like I'm running 20K, right? That's going to be different. That's going to be a different story than someone who has, one run, 20 to 30 minutes. So I feel like for someone like me, especially living in San Diego with the sun, I definitely probably do need both. Like sometimes I'll also, depending on how salty my food is, I will have 2 electrolytes or 3.
Yeah, I'd say something that a dietitian can assist with is electrolytes are probably one of the few supplements where we actually could experience a pretty quick response, right? When our muscles are contracting, it's an exchange of these electrolytes themselves. And so let's say we cramp, for example, and then we introduce electrolytes to someone's system. Well, you may actually feel that muscle relax right then and there. And so electrolytes are something that, because it's such an electrical current, such a quick response, we want to be very sensitive with it. We've probably often heard of overhydration or underhydration. There's a sweet spot for all of us. A lot of it has to do with the timing of our exercise, how much sweat we're losing. We all release sodium as we sweat, so how much of a sweater we are. So we can do sweat patches with athletes to test for how much sodium they're losing during exercise and what we want to replenish that with. Bottom line, if an athlete is cramping on us, well, we know we need to introduce more of a supplement, right? More electrolyte. And so with Caroline, it's never been an issue, right? Where cramping is something we need to introduce more of the electrolyte dosage for her. However, I would say for most athletes, of the duration that you're running, we want to at least have additional beyond food electrolyte sources per day. So for you to be getting the hydrate plus the motion, depending on the dosage in motion, I'm still not concerned with the double up of electrolytes. Yeah. There's even a little bit of electrolyte in another one of your supplements. And so we combine all that to say we could look at your body weight, how much you're losing in exercise, and what we need to replenish individually to make sure you're not overdosing on electrolytes or under still. So.
And I want to add a little story because before I moved to the US, I actually took 0 supplements. I think I would like occasionally take omega-3 because in Norway we have something called TRUWILD, which is like the liquid omega-3, and my parents had that in their fridge, so like I would take that, but it was more like, oh, today I remember, like I was really like not on top of these things like in the way I am now. But I actually remember, and I honestly thought that supplements was like an American like overkill, like it was just like a business, like a big business, money making, yeah. Anyways, I love salt. Like I always salted my food very well, but I was massively dehydrated, and when I got blood drawn in at the doctor's in Norway, like all the tests like showed that. So I think that for sure, like if there's one supplement, not gonna necessarily say it's necessary in Norway during the winter, right? But like especially if you live somewhere where it's warm out and you're exercising outside, like for sure, like this is really been a game changer. It's one
of the few supplements we'll feel the difference pretty quickly when we're at our appropriate hydration, for sure.
Yeah. And then moving on to what I also feel like is so important for me now, but before I actually did not, like I ran my 2:46 marathon fueling without like a gel. I actually used just banana. So it is possible, but now I have found a brand that I just love the taste of. So if you guys don't already know, I love chocolate. So this one is, chocolate flavored. And then it also has sodium. It also has amino acids and caffeine. But it has a pretty small dosage of caffeine, 20 milligrams. But I take a gel at least every 30 minutes. And if I'm like low on energy right before I run, like I'll start off like with a gel and then bring more gels. Like I'm really not afraid of the sugar in gels because I'm utilizing that sugar straight away for the activity. So if you want to talk a little bit more about the gel.
So Caroline's right. We have, when we met initially, we did her initial testing, baseline testing. Now we know, based off her total mass, how many grams of carbohydrate should Caroline be aiming to eat per day, depending on how long her efforts are going to be. And I think timing is a very important part of when someone would want to take this kind of supplement. For Caroline, we said, if that effort's going to be an hour or longer, we may want to consider throwing some carbohydrate in during exercise rather than just before and after. So for the most part, and And again, this goes based off of body size, what your sport is, what your carb needs are. But we want to think about taking in about 30 grams of carbohydrate before an exercise effort, and then about 30 to 60 after. So when would I want to introduce carbohydrate? During exercise, a duration of longer than an hour, it might be appropriate. And for Caroline, our carbohydrate goal per day is so high, her getting 21 grams mid-exercise with very little fiber, very quickly digesting. I think there's only 1 gram of fat in here. So there's nothing getting in the way of sending this sugar pretty straight through the digestive system into her bloodstream for her muscles to take and use. And so you can tell me how you felt through efforts where you haven't had this. I know you said there's some athletes you talk to that don't want these in their routine. They're not going to use them during exercise.
They don't think it's necessary, but it's a kind of thing. It's like with sleep, right? You think that you feel fine with like what 5-6 hours of sleep, but then when you experience sleeping 8 hours, you're like, oh my God, my world just totally changed, right?
Yeah.
So now honestly, my training has like 180 pivoted like after I started being on top of fueling.
Yeah.
Like
with how long your runs are.
Yeah. And but even before, when I didn't run as long, right, like I would not be hungry before and after my runs, and I thought that then I don't need to eat. And I'd say like the biggest difference, because you don't even necessarily eat a total amount that's more by fueling before and after your runs, but what happens is the recovery process is like so much faster.
Absolutely.
And then you don't have these like massive cravings at night. Like before, I noticed I was like really craving a lot of carbs at night, and that was without doubt because I wasn't eating enough, and especially enough carbs like before and after my workout.
Oh yeah.
So
I like to equate these to like if we were to run our cars all the way to that empty mark. The car's still going to run. You're getting close to that end and you're about ready to crash. We don't know when that moment where that car is going to stop is going to be, versus some people will fuel along the way. That engine's going to continue to run very efficiently through. You're not going to need to fill up all the way after that exercise effort because you did a little bit of fueling during that effort. And so to keep the engine running, call it engine like a car, running smoothly throughout the effort, and even to meet the carbohydrate need that you have for your tank, it just makes sense to implement these from time to time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No. So, and yeah, I just get more carbs out of a gel than a banana, and it's just digests really easy for me. I love that I get the caffeine, and I don't like when I've had like sports drinks in the past where I've like taken a caffeine pill with the sports drink, but the reality is when I'm racing, I'm not going to be bringing like my own sports drink, and I want to like practice what I'm going to be doing on race day. And then, yeah, I just love that I don't have to like take a pill without water and you're already like dehydrated. Like instead you just get it with the goo.
Yeah. Very small amount, very high amount of carb.
Exactly.
Easy to get down.
Yeah. So highly recommend. And for gels, I'd say like try a bunch of different brands because we all do have different like flavoring likes. Like I know my boyfriend, he's like a very citrus person. Like I think he would be very like, this is like too intense of like a chocolate taste for him. But yeah, for me, like I just love the taste. I feel like I'm having dessert like when I'm running. Thank you so much for watching. So if you want to check out TRUWILD, I'll leave the link to the website, and you can use code Caroline20 to get 20% off. And you can also meet with Katie, registered sports dietitian, through Dexa Body. So I'll leave a link for that below as well. And again, there's a 20% discount code. So it would really help support me as well to let them know that I sent you.
There's an obvious end to this game we're playing. I say nothing, you say nothing, and nobody wins. I've been